Hello everyone, welcome to a crash course in MCP, a beginner's guide using TypeScript. So let me talk a little bit about me. My name is Israel Santana, but I'm mostly known as Izzy. And I have a degree in political science with a minor in journalism. I started learning how to code last year, and I've been an active member of Code and Coffee since March of last year, which has been a great opportunity for me. I'm very active on Twitter, X. I love the chaos. I just have fun there. I post a lot of content on YouTube, whether it's a blog, a tutorial, or whenever I go to different meetups, I always post a highlight. And on LinkedIn, my current tech stack, as you can see, is React and TypeScript and Spring Boot on the back end, which is a Java framework. And this is my first ever talk. So yeah, it's exciting, right? It is exciting. What are we doing today? So this is going to be a beginner crash course on the MCP protocol. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk you through how an MCP works, why it matters, and I'm going to be showing you some demos. One project is cooler than the other. The resources to help you get started, and the clear basics for anyone new to MCP. So if you never worked with MCP before, this is the right spot. If you already have experience building servers and production and stuff, most likely these are not topics that you're going to be really caring about. So my target is if you just heard of it, never worked with it, this is a talk. Now, what is the Model Context Protocol? And I want to read this on purpose. It says, this is from the official documentation. The Model Context Protocol is an open source standard for connecting AI applications. Using MCP, AI applications like Claude or ChatGPT can connect to data sources, tools, workflows. Think of it like an USB-C port for AI applications. Use a USB-C provides a standardized way to connect electronic devices. Did that make sense for anybody here? Okay, so when I first read this, when I was first getting into MCP, I just felt it was a lot of words. Because I'm like, man, there has to be a better way to explain this to someone that's never heard of it. Because USB-C port, I felt I was dealing with a microwave and not with agents. So a core definition that I found was an MCP is a set of rules that define how to feed context into a model. Does that make a little bit more sense? Yes. Now, the definition that made sense for me is a way for your agent to have context about your application and then using natural language, like add this, delete this. Your agent has this context, and through this, it can do things for you instead of you have to manually type things, which makes things a lot more convenient. Key concepts of the MCP protocol is 3 of them: resources, tools, and prompts. Resources are just a fancy word. It's anything that has data in it. It could be a JSON file, it can be a PostgreSQL database. Anything that has information, that's a resource. Tools, that's another fancy word. All it is an action, a function that you make that does something. And through that something happens with your agent. It's just a function. And lastly, a prompt. A prompt is a prompt. Something you wrote earlier, you add it to the agent, and it can do something for you. That's all it is. So when you go to the documentation, they offer multiple SDKs. I'm going to be using the TypeScript one, but if you are a Python developer, a Go developer, a Java developer, you can go straight to their SDKs, and they have amazing documentation, which is one of the cool things about the Model Context Protocol. They have very good documentation. So if something doesn't make sense because you're a Python developer, some of the concepts are still going to make sense once you transfer to your language of choosing. Now, let's stop talking. Let's go to my editor. So I'm not going to be having multiple slides. We just go straight to the code, and this is what's going to happen. I'm going to break down what is what and what it does. And then I'm going to show you how you can feed this information to your agents to do something with it. So when you first come here, you can see that we have 2 things. We have, let me get rid of this. We have the server, which is the MCP server. That's how you start because that's a server. So the first thing that you can see here, this is how you create a server. Now here, who has worked with Express.js and done a server? Okay, now look at this. Does this look a little bit similar? This area here, running a server, does it look similar? So if you already have some experience doing something simple with Express and making a server run, you're good to go. So let's go back. So when you create an MCP server, the first thing that you are given is you have to define your MCP server, what it does, what it is, and the capabilities. As you can see here, it's very straightforward. The name is just the name. I just gave it MCP tutorial. The version, you can give any version you want. I put 1 because it's the version that I made for this MCP server. The capabilities is an optional tool, but what it does is it just defines for your client and for another software engineer that goes over your code, it lets the developer know what this MCP does. So as you can see here, this MCP server does 3 things. Resources, meaning it has data. Tools, it does something with that data. And prompt, you have a prompt that does something with both the resources and the tools. So once we go to the resource config, as you can see here, server that resource. So that's how you start. Server that tool, server that prompt, server that resources is the way that you access that particular object for your MCP. So here I built a server that resource. And as you can see here, it says users. Why? That's the name of the resource. And then as you can see here, users all, it's just a URI. It's just a link. It's like a HTTP. So you give it a name to that link. So now you have both the name and a link, similar to what you would do with an Express.js server. Description, what it does. The title, users. That's the metadata. So when you build in a client, again, you know what it does. These are optional tools, but it's just good because just because your code makes sense to you, that doesn't mean that if I go and see it myself, it's going to make sense. So these things, even though it's a little bit of a boilerplate, it just helps to your fellow developer have an idea on what your MCP server does. MIME type, application JSON. Why? Because for this demonstration, I'm going to be using a JSON file where the information is going to go in and out. So if there was something else, let's say an HTML file, that's what it would say. Does that make sense? So as you can see here, all we're doing is basic stuff. Data users, we import in this information from the users, which is here. This is the file that we are, this is our database. So what we're doing, we import in this information, and then we are providing the URI, which was this, that we created. The text was a JSON file. We're going to stringify because it's an object. We need to make it into a string. And then the MIME type, again, is a lot of repetition, but it just helps you protect the integrity of your data, because the last thing that you want to do is you want to add a number and you get a reply with a number, but it's using a string in between. And it's going to make sense in a bit. And just like that, you have a resource. So the name, the URI, and you're going to import this data. And you already have access, your agent has access to your data in this particular resource. Is it making sense so far? Okay. Now, as you can see here, another resource, very similar, but this one in particular, user details, and all are we doing here, as you can see here, this is dynamically. So what does this do? You'll be accessing a profile based on this dynamic property, which will be user ID. And we go again and does the same thing. We describe what it does, get a user's details from the database. In this case, it's a JSON file. The title, the MIME type, we import it again. And then we do a little bit of code to make sure if there's no, it returns something. So as you can see, if you have some experience with JavaScript, it's nothing out of the ordinary. This kind of makes sense if you worked with JavaScript before. Now, we're using TypeScript. So for those that have never worked with TypeScript before, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. TypeScript is just a superset of JavaScript. All that it means is it just adds types to your JavaScript. So it just helps that when you define something, that something remains the same throughout the entire application. But there's a problem with TypeScript, and is that TypeScript is only keeping its types as you type the code. The moment you run your code, all the types disappear and it becomes vanilla JavaScript. So when you have it in production, your web server doesn't see the types. It just sees straight JavaScript. So the TypeScript disappears. Now, As you can see here, there's a schema. And we're using this. This is a NPM package called Zod, Z-O-D. And the reason that it's becoming so popular to use with TypeScript is that what I said before about TypeScript, when you run it, the type disappears and it becomes JavaScript. With Zod, that's not the case. Zod, if you define your schema, it protects the integrity of your data, even at runtime, which is a very cool feature. So, for example, you can see the power of Zod. Let's say that you define an object, a name, you want it to be a string, and then you want age. So age will be a number. And yes, it shows that you need a number, and it's not necessarily happening here. It's just an example that I'm coming up with. That number is a number, but if someone inputs from a client perspective, and instead of putting 25, which is a number, they actually put parenthesis 25, it becomes a string. So now that's a problem. Zod protects the integrity of your data. So if it says a number, or if it's a string, it doesn't matter if it's running or not, it's going to protect the schema. Now, the tool, what I said before, it's just the action that your MCP is going to do. What you want it to do. In this case, we're going to create users. And again, as you can see here, the metadata for the client is optional, but it's good because if you start seeing it after you have been working with MCP, and you see someone else's code, it just helps you. Oh, okay, this is what it does. Now, the title, it just create a user. Now, something that you do with your tools, you let the client know what does it do. And as you can see here, it's saying read-only hints is false. It will be true if all your tool did was read, but that's not the case because this tool can create a user. So you can't just read, you can do something else. Destructive hint is false. Why? Because what it means, if this is true, that means that when you do something, you're able to delete something. In this case, this only creates. That's why it's false. This word here, I always have a problem pronouncing it. Idempotent hint is false. And that's just a fancy word. And it's very helpful, this one. This, all it means is, if I run a prompt, if I tell my agent to create a user, let's say the first time, and then I ask for the same thing 10,000 times, will the change of the data change? In this case, no. Why? Because as you can see here, all we're creating a user is with a name, an email, an address, and a phone. So even if I run this 10,000 times, the idempotent hint is going to be false because the data is not changing. Now, the open world hint, all it means is if it connects with something else. In this case, true, because we can connect with something else outside, HTTP with another server. So that's the purpose of this. And then again, we do an async, we create the parameters, and then we return the types. The type is going to be a text. Dynamically, we're going to add user ID created successfully. So as you can see here, our tool is able to create something, and it really didn't require that much code. We just define the type, we say what it does, and look, this little amount of code does all of this. It creates a user, and again, this is a small scale. In this case, we just have the name, email, address, and phone. But let's be realistic. Let's say you have a hardware store. It will be a lot more data than that. The name of the item, the location of the place, the price of the quantity. So this is a more lower example so people can understand it. But this here can be multiple things that you want to add when creating something, if you even want to create something. Now, the sampling, this is essentially does the same thing, but this something uses a randomizer. So instead of me having to add the data itself, so as you can see here I need to add the data. I need to say the name, the email, the address, the phone. I don't want to do that. That's manually. We have agents that can do this for us. You want to speed up the process. And this is what, for instance, this tool does. It creates a random user, and all I have to do is just call the tool. And you'll see what it means. And then the prompt. As you can see here, everybody has ran a prompt here. Let me see, I always get confused. So as you can see here, this is the prompt that I have. Generate a fake user with the name, and the user should have a realistic email, address, and phone number. So I don't no longer have to manually type this. It will create a user for me. So now let me show you an example. Let's go to the agent. And what we're going to do is we're going to run the tool. And we're going to come here. So as you can see here, our database, which is a JSON file, has different users. So let's create one. The way that you do it, I use VS Code. You can run an MCP with Cursor, with Cloud Code. You can use the editor of your choosing. I like VS Code because I just feel comfortable with it. So you use a different editor, no problem. It's still the same concept. So the way that you access your tool, as you can see here, we're going to do create user. Why I'm doing create user? Because when we went to the MCP server that we created, the name is here. So I'm literally just calling the name of the tool that I have. So as you can see here, let's test it. Create a user with the name Izzy. Let's see if it works. So the agent has the context of this tool and is asking me, am I able to create it? The reason we have this like this is that you don't want your agent to just do things for you right away. You need to go over it because that's how you can break an application. So I'm allowing it. So yes, create a user. And then if we go here, Izzy. It's not that impressive, but it shows that I didn't have to add an email, I didn't have to add an address or phone. And remember, we're going on a basic level. Just think about the possibilities of the things that you can do once you define something very specific. So one thing that you can do, you can provide the context of the data. And here's the funny thing. Yesterday, before I have this talk, I was trying to reach out to the resources. And the resources are here, but for some reason it's not able to take them. But the cool thing, I have the user file. And what I can do is, can you tell me how many users do we have? The agent is going to go over the context and is going to tell me, oh, you have 10 users. So something that I can do, I can specify the agent. And again, we have 10. Let's say we had 25,000 different users. It's a lot easier to say, give me the details of user 2500. It doesn't exist. But in the agent will be able to, there's no user with this ID. So it gives you an idea on what it has access once you provide the context. Context is just a fancy word to let your agent know what it's doing with your data. So now let's try something different. So this is an MCP server. You can run a client as well. So I have a client, and this is the cool thing about it. When you have a client, I don't necessarily have to go to the agents. I can do it. Everything that I did here, I can do it from the console, from the terminal. So as you can see here, it's asking, what would you like to do? A query, tools, resources. And then let's say resources, users. So if I hit users, it should give me all the data that we have here. And again, it's this JSON file. So we have here 1, 2, 3, and it shows the users that we have. But let's say we want to specify one in the specific. We can go to the resources again, users details, resources, users details, and then let's say number 5. It claims that it's John Doe. Let's see if it's true. So John Doe, here's the email, the fake address, and that's the phone. Now let's use the client side, and let's use a tool. So let's create a user. Enter the name. Let's say Charles. Email fake, address 123, and a fake phone number. And now it created the user successfully. Let's prove it. Here it is. So as you can see here, using an MCP server, it just provides a little bit more power for you to communicate with your agents, and it just helps when you want to do something and you don't have to necessarily do it manually. But now, let's be honest. It's cool, the tutorial, but this project itself is not that impressive. I'm going to show you something cool. What we're going to do now is, let me show you this. This is a Google Calendar. So I created an MCP server that gets access to my personal Google Calendar. And from it, I'm able to check if I have any events. And I'm also able to create events. And this required a little bit more code. This required a JSON token authentication, some OAuth stuff. So it makes it very cool. So my agents now can access my personal calendar, and I'm able to create a date. But let's test this, right? So the way that we're going to do this, we're going to come here, and we're going to add get my calendar by data. So what this tool does is checks if I have any events for that day. So let's test it. And this is the cool thing about MCP. I can just use natural language to communicate things. So what do I have for September 21st? It should say that I have a talk today. It's working, as you can see here. It runs, and here it is. For September 21st, 2025, your calendar includes NYC Code and Coffee. And as you can see here, it says a crash course on MCP. So now let's say I want to do something, I don't know, let's add this way. Let's add an event. And I'm showing you the calendar here for October because I have personal things in September. I don't want to show it. So let's go to October. So let's create an event. I have it already here. And let's use the tool create calendar event. And what we're going to do is, I can either do this manually. Let's say I would have typed this. That would have taken me a couple seconds. So that's why I'm copy and pasting. So let's see if it works. So it's asking me if it's allowed. So let's see if it works. So I just want to make sure. I have it for October 10th. There's nothing here. So let's see what happens. If I allow, it says it created successfully, right? Boom. Now we have it here. Now we have going for dinner with wife on October 10th from 6 to 8. Now, I don't like the fact that I had to copy and paste this. I just rather do this in natural language. So let's do this the same thing. We're going to get the same tool. The name of the tool is called Create Calendar Event. So I have here going for dinner with my wife on October 10th. Let's say on October 22nd. So here I didn't have to use title, start, and description. I can just tell it what I want it to do. Let's see if it works. Working, okay, it says allow. Let's say your calendar event has been created, and let's see if it's true. Here it is. Voila. Natural language. That's the power of MCP. Why write it when you can tell your agent to do that thing that you want for you to do? And that's the power of MCP. Okay? Now, I'm not a gatekeeper. I love to share. So those two projects that I just showed you, if you scan this, it automatically takes you to the repo with all the code base and how to do it. I want to make sure if you never worked with this before, you're able to do it. I have a README that explains everything. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me. I want to make sure if something didn't make sense, because there's so much that I can tell you in a crash course. But I want you to have the resources, okay? And then the last thing, if you want to connect with me, I got a GitHub, I got a YouTube, I got a Twitter, I got a LinkedIn. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time with this. And as we do this, I want you guys to think about something with MCP. These were easy examples, but the real power with MCP is like the ability that you have, again, to use natural language. This is where we're heading when it comes to software engineering. These tools, we can use them. So some people might be hesitant with agents, with AI. AI is here to stay. So you either have two options. You either learn these tools and make them do things for you, or someone else will learn them and get that job that you want. Okay?